It's Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. Trump restates his ultimatum for Iran to the moon once again, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, space cadet of a different kind. Next on the AM Update. President Trump addressed the nation last night from the White House, restating the goals for Iran, providing an update and promising to get the job done.
And now we must honor them by completing the mission for which they gave their lives, and every single one of the people, their loved ones said, "Please, sir, please finish the job."
President Trump paying tribute to the 13 fallen service members in Operation Epic Fury. He also gave Iran an ultimatum. Really, it's not new news if you've been following President Trump's threats on Truth Social in recent days, but he did restate it for the whole world to hear.
Much more reasonable. Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it.
I was monitoring both WTI and Brent crude oil futures during this. It was just up and down and up and down and up and down. And in that about minute-long space where he was talking about, hey, we're going to hit the electric infrastructure, we haven't hit oil because that doesn't give them any chance in the future, but we could if we wanted to. I was just watching that in real time literally going up, and the Brent and WTI prices going up and down. It was hilarious in a weird way if it didn't hurt everybody's pocketbooks. President Trump also reiterated the original impetus for going to war with Iran right now.
Tonight, I want to provide an update on the tremendous progress our warriors have made in Iran and discuss why Operation Epic Fury is necessary for the safety of America and the security of the free world. From the very first day I announced my campaign for president in 2015, I have vowed that I would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This fanatical regime has been chanting death to America, death to Israel for 47 years. Their proxies were behind the murder of 241 Americans in the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, the slaughter of hundreds of our service members with roadside bombs. They were involved in the attack on the USS Cole, and they carried out the countless other heinous acts, including the just horrible, bloody atrocities of October 7th in Israel. Something that most people have never seen anything like it.
President Trump also laid the blame at the feet of Barack Obama and that disastrous Iran nuclear deal, saying he's righting those wrongs. No real new news from President Trump's address to the nation and the world last night. It was, however, a compilation of President Trump's messaging from the past couple of weeks on the war in Iran. He also reiterated what we heard the other day, 2 to 3 more weeks of very heavy bombings and the threat of even further bombings, saying they'll take him back to the Stone Age if no deal is met by, I believe, April 6th is the deadline. So, like I said, no real new groundbreaking news from that press conference last night. Also laid the responsibility for reopening Hormuz not on us, but on countries that actually need it. Well, it's not too often that a momentous day in another arena could be overshadowed by an address from the Oval Office, but that was very much the case yesterday.
10, 9, 8, 7, RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
We can still do cool things. Update: the Artemis II crew launched into the history books yesterday, blasting off aboard NASA's Orion spacecraft on a mission to the moon, or around the moon, more precisely. It's the first crewed journey beyond low Earth orbit. That's, I think, 250 miles. in more than 50 years, since way before even I was born. Astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch of the U.S., and Jeremy Hansen of the Canadian Space Agency boarded the 322-foot Orion spacecraft at Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39B on Wednesday afternoon, just hours before launching at 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. The Artemis II crew is expected to travel around the moon and back, marking the first crewed mission beyond low Earth orbit since 1972. I watched that entire launch sequence, and man, I'm not lying. I got goosebumps a couple of times watching this being pulled off. It is just an incredible feat of technology and engineering. As I understand, the technology that NASA is using is still like from the 1980s, but it is still breathtaking to see this in play nonetheless. To a space cadet of a different kind, Ketanji Brown Jackson, in oral arguments over President Trump's executive order from day one, trying to put the kibosh on birthright citizenship. Oral arguments at the Supreme Court yesterday. President Trump set history by becoming the first sitting U.S. president to actually sit in on oral arguments. He heard this, among other things, from Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson.
I was thinking about this, and I think there are various sources that say this, that you obviously have permanent allegiance based on being born in whatever country you're from. That's what everybody recognizes. But you also have local allegiance when you are on the soil of this other sovereign. And I was thinking, I'm a U.S. citizen and visiting Japan. And what it means is that, if I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. It's allegiance, meaning can they control you as a matter of law. I can also rely on them if my wallet is stolen to, under Japanese law, go and prosecute the person who has stolen it. So there's this relationship based on, even though I'm a temporary traveler, I'm just on vacation in Japan, I'm still locally owing allegiance in that sense.
Oh my. So the question at hand here, really, just to simplify things, does the 14th Amendment mean that if you are from anywhere on the planet and you just so happen to be flying over United States airspace, flying in United States airspace, you happen to give birth to somebody, does that baby then mean that it's a United States citizen? Is that what the 14th Amendment means? That's what we're talking about here. And there's all sorts of tentacles to what that means. That's the question at hand here. And Ketanji Brown Jackson, as you heard there, in an attempt to defend the 14th Amendment and what it's currently known as, currently interpreted as, which is basically anybody can come here from anywhere in the world, have a baby, and that baby is a U.S. citizen. She says that if she steals a wallet in Japan, she's subject to Japanese laws. And she says in that sense, she is pledging allegiance to Japan. By that standard, Mohammed Atta was just as American as any one of us as he plowed that airliner into the World Trade Center. I mean, it's just ridiculous, mind-numbing arguments. And she wasn't alone as well. Chief Justice John Roberts tried to get in a cheap shot at U.S. Solicitor General John Sauer.
Based on Chinese media reports, there are 500 birth tourism companies in the People's Republic of China whose business is to bring people here to give birth and return to that nation.
Having said all that, you do agree that that has no impact on the legal analysis before us?
I think it's, I'd quote what Justice Scalia said in his Hamdan dissent, where their interpretation has these implications that could not possibly have been approved by the 19th century framers of this amendment. I think that shows that they've made a mess, their interpretation has made a mess of the provision.
Well, it certainly wasn't a problem in the 19th century.
No, but of course, we're in a new world now, as Justice Alito pointed out, where 8 billion people are one plane ride away from having a child who's a U.S. citizen.
Well, it's a new world. It's the same Constitution.
What a cheap shot. Just a total cheap shot. I'm sure John Roberts, he's trying to create a nice soundbite. He is very politically driven as the Chief Justice. very politically driven. It's a new world. It's the same Constitution. Responding to a very real and imminent threat of China, like a million went to whatever that island chain is in the Pacific from China. 1 million women went there, had babies, and now 1 million Chinese are now dual citizens with the United States. That's a very real and very imminent threat. And John Roberts' retort to that is, it's a new world, but it's the same Constitution. No, that's not what the 14th Amendment meant. I would gird your loins right now, though. It seems very likely to me, unless by some miracle Amy Coney Barrett decides to go against John Roberts, they are not going to uphold the Trump administration's interpretation of birthright, citizenship, and the 14th Amendment. When we come back, it's another day that ends in why it looks like Republicans are selling out again. Also, a couple of messages from the White House that were not supposed to be heard by the general public. We'll talk about those and more next. Back at the White House earlier in the day before his address to the nation, President Trump gathered with a group of faith leaders at the White House in an event that was not supposed to be seen by the general public from what I have seen. Now, the White House has clipped a few of these moments, so I'm not sure if the entire thing was not supposed to be seen by the public. But they originally started live streaming, and then they deleted the live stream, which caused some people to speculate that maybe this was not supposed to be seen by the broader public. This is one of the clips that was actually available publicly, and you know what? Say what you want about President Trump. Whatever his motivations are, we still have a commander-in-chief who, during Holy Week, is still willing to say things like this.
On Good Friday, the Son of God was nailed to the cross, crucified, and he died for all of us. It was a day of darkness, but it wasn't the end. By any means, it was not the end. On Easter Sunday, the stone was rolled away and the grave was empty. Christians everywhere rejoiced, and we continue to rejoice. Easter is one of the incredible days. It was the miracle in all of history, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It was the great miracle, I guess, right?
Amen to that. So that is one comment from that ceremony at the White House, that gathering at the White House. There's one other clip from that. I'm not sure the White House actually wanted to get out to the general public. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Senator Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, is taking a victory lap, saying on social media, House Republicans cave. This is after House Speaker Mike Johnson, less than a week after saying the Senate bill to reopen DHS was, quote, a joke. Well, he's circling the wagons now. He released a joint statement with the Senate Majority Leader John Thune, saying that, we'll actually vote for this tribe after all. We'll give the Democrats what they want. And then pinky promise with Senate Republicans, we'll fund Border Patrol and ICE in reconciliation. Because I'm sure Republicans in the Senate are definitely going to follow through on that. I think the number now is 3 years of funding via reconciliation. I'm quite certain that the people who can't even pluck up the courage, the political will, to pass the Save America Act, I'm sure they're going to not renege and totally cop out on funding via reconciliation, immigration enforcement. Chuck Schumer, though, as I said, he's taking a victory lap. Quote, House Republicans caved. They've agreed to pass the Senate bill to fund DHS, except for ICE and Customs and Border Protection that unanimously passed a week ago. So that is Chuck Schumer taking a victory lap. See, this makes me actually think that maybe, now, this is going to make me sound like I was born yesterday. But the fact that somebody like Chuck Schumer is so eager to take a victory lap, something tells me he knows that maybe they actually are going to fund DHS and Border Patrol. Maybe they are going to fund that via reconciliation after all, and he's got to get some sort of messaging win for his base after all of this. Who knows? I don't trust anybody. Back to that clip from the White House that I said I'm not totally sure if this entire event was meant to be seen by the public. The White House did tweet out a few clips from this event. Again, it was faith leaders. It was a Holy Week gathering. Apparently, Erica Kirk was in attendance. President Trump noticed this, and gave Erica Kirk some instructions. Listen to this.
Happy. Anybody that doesn't want, hello, darling. Wow, this is a good table. I like that table. You're doing well, right? Okay. I think you should sue him, but, you know, I told her, you ought to sue somebody. They're so jealous of Erica. I said, you ought to sue their... I can say it. You're not allowed to say this. You have to be nicer. Sue their ass off.
So there's President Trump noticing Erica Kirk sitting in this room and instructing her in front of all of these people, sue their asses right off, Erica. They're so jealous of you. That's what President Trump said. Like I said, I'm not sure if the White House wanted all of this event out for the public. Isn't that interesting? That brings us to our poll of the week. I asked you, do you care about the right-wing podcast wars? Gave you a few options. Of course, it matters. No, it's inside baseball. I don't know even what this is and the ability to comment. This might be my least voted in poll, but my most commented in on poll that I've actually done yet. Let's get to the results. In third place, I don't even know what that is at 14.3%. In second place is no, I don't care about the right-wing podcast wars. This is the Megyn Kellys, the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owens, although I have my doubts about how many of those are truly right-wing or what even right-wing means anymore. But I left that ambiguous on purpose. 28.6% said no, it's inside baseball, I don't care. And in first place, 33.3% say, yes, of course I care. It definitely matters. Let's see what you had to say. Jim says, I don't really care about the infighting itself. I'm more concerned about whether we as a society, we're going to gravitate towards those who say what we want to hear rather than those who say what we need to hear. We're doomed if the former prevail. Yep, I agree with that. But it's not human nature as a baseline to want to hear what you need to hear versus what you want to hear. What the flesh wants to hear, I should say. Melissa says, only to shine light on the lies, the truth will prevail. God willing, and yes, it is God's will that the truth prevail, but I hope it's His will that the truth prevails sooner rather than later, before too many more of these lies, too many more people can be led astray. Trumpet says, I only care to the extent that it deceives an already confused base. This is what I was just saying. There are so many civil wars happening inside the remains of the conservative movement right now. We will never manage to attack the left, much less defeat it. Yep, that's kind of where I am too. I mean, playing offense, what is it? What is it? We, on paper, have control of the federal government right now. We, people aligned with us, the people we voted for, have control of the federal government. What do we have to show for it right now? What? Jay Breezy says, I personally don't care because I know they're idiots and not to be taken seriously. What I am worried about is it leaking containment by being discussed on the Sean Ryan show, which leaks out to Rogan and other Dude Bro podcasts. That's already gone. Yep. It's already breached containment. It already has. When you've got Joe Rogan already making fun of Erica Kirk, things like that, it's broken containment. James says, what it's showing is who's reading Alexander Dugin more than their Bibles. Man, I had not really heard much about that name until really this flap with Iran started. The dude is, I think first and foremost, from what I have seen, he is mostly just a Russian propagandist. Now, there's some deeper or maybe broader worldview things there where he just thinks that the entire planet needs to die, but Russia will survive. But then again, that goes back to my first point. I think he's just a mouthpiece of Russian propaganda. Along those lines, I saw something the other day that I thought was a pretty good descriptor of what Russia actually is. Russia is a third-rate superpower. They are. How long has this thing in Ukraine been going on? And I saw by some estimates, they have less land now, less territory now than they did 1 month into their thing with Ukraine. They are a third-rate superpower, but they are in possession of a first-rate information warfare machine. So there's that. Steven says, I don't watch or listen to anybody but you and your day job. Keep it that way, Steven. I appreciate that. No, that's flattering. Thank you. Craig says it matters, but the The Neil deGrasse Tyson gif of him just shrugging. Brett says, voted for other, but I do care, but not because it matters in the positive sense. I care because it's embarrassing and divisive. There are far more important things to be unified about right now. Yep, I agree. But we can't have nice things. We just have mental degradation and soft-headedness at best. Tom says, I chose number one. That would be it cares. I care. It matters. Tom says he chose one only because the other right is more in line with the left. Matt says, I care as a juxtaposition of the right's lack of effective action against the horrors that are ruling the Democrats. We don't have time. Carrie Ann says, I want to not care, but it is unfortunately something that will fracture the base. Victoria says, yes and no. It shapes a lot of the discourse, but it's all the same and I'm tired of it. Me too. Tom says, I don't care at all. Kim says, I'm so tired of it. And Country Squire says, this is the canary in the coal mine. Let's end there. Tomorrow is Ask or Tell Me Anything. You can ask me any question you want. Tell me any news story you think needs covered on the AM Update. Make your submissions at Real AM Update on X. Look for the pinned post at Real AM Update on X. Have a wonderful Thursday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.